legacy of the past that we must always bring to the present, our presence will be known. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Never again means now. So we plow the earth. We dance. We chant and plant watermelon seeds. We will soon reap the fruits of our labor, for freedom is given at birth. From the earth and to your lips, sip from the Holy Grail. Recall and revere every single tale, every song, every story. Glory be to the land, to the hands of the home, to those who raise the children, the men and women who write history. The story of Palestine is forever. The story of Palestine is forever. The story of Palestine is forever.
يا حياتي
Of the film we just watched, Matthew Solomon.
Thank you. This is Donna Hajikani, who's the executive producer, Dr. Huda Erekat, and Ismo. Rabbi, and Mo. Oh, he's coming. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. So let's have another round of applause and thank you for this. I am Rabbi Mordechai Liebling from Rabbis for Ceasefire, and I was asked to moderate this conversation. But this was a very emotional couple of hours, so maybe if we could just take a minute and everybody take one or two nice deep breaths and center yourself. Maybe put your feet on the floor, across your arms and legs. And get grounded. We just were on an emotional roller coaster. Feel your feet in touch with the earth. Allow your chair to support you. Now just take a couple of full, deep breaths and just notice your body. As you breathe, maybe notice your heart. How's your heart feeling right now? And send some breath and some love into your heart. Okay, now let's all come together in deep appreciation for these people who brought us a glimpse of the truth and who were not afraid to shy away from pain and not afraid to shy away from some difficult truths, and all of whom have taken risks to tell the truth. So we appreciate your strength and your courage. So we'll just begin by, I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves and just say a few minutes about what was important to them and to your heart and to your journey about making this movie.
I'm Donna Hajikani. I'm the executive producer of the film. This is the second film that Matthew and I made together. When Matthew called me about almost 2.5 years ago and said our next film was going to be about Palestine and the genocide in Gaza, I was 100% all in. If it might have been any other topic, I might not have been a 100% yes, but because it was about Palestine and Gaza, I absolutely, there was no way I wasn't going to be involved. I was really lucky in college. I did a semester abroad and we went to Western Asia. We were in Egypt, and from there we went to Gaza and the West Bank. And this was in 1993, during the First Intifada, right before the Oslo Accords were signed. I spent a week in Gaza. My 20th birthday was spent there, and when I called my parents for them to wish me a happy birthday, they could hear the bombs exploding around us and the machine guns being fired. And we all knew then that the kids were throwing rocks and being met with machine guns. So I experienced it. I was there. I saw it from my own eyes, the walls, the checkpoints. And this is in 1993, so you know it was almost a fraction of what it is now. And then we went to the West Bank, and I lived with a family for 2 weeks. And I ate my meals with them. Their kids who were around my age showed me around their town. We went back home for the curfews. We lived as part of the society and culture there. And from that point on, the hearts of the Palestinian people lived in my soul. And when October 7th happened, I had never felt so lonely in my life. I didn't know who I could speak to, who would understand my fear and loneliness and grief at what I knew was going to happen. I studied the history there, I knew what was coming next. And a few days after, Matthew called me and he said, "How are you feeling?" And it was the first time someone acknowledged that I was in this fear and grief, and he's been my brother in this journey for sure. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Solomon. I'm the director of the film. I also work in conflict resolution and I teach conflict resolution. For me, you know, what was most important was that the truth is told, and that the people who have been most impacted and most affected feel honored and heard and acknowledged, and that the story was told right. Our previous film, Reimagining Safety, which was on alternatives to police, which actually screened here twice, thanks to Ashana and a number of folks here at the Falzer Club. I had the honor of traveling all over the country. We did over 100 screenings, over 130 community organizations hosted that film. And so, you know, I've been in rooms all across the country with people who care about people, which after 2020, with COVID and George Floyd, it was really hard to find people who care about people. And so, having those relationships, and then and knowing about propaganda and how, you know, the media portrays, you know, police as these like heroes that we need, when in reality it's really community and resources that we need, and love, and, you know, humanity and dignity. After October 7th, all of the narratives were, you know, worst Jewish things since the Holocaust, you know, all the things. And then when the encampment started, seeing the police violence and how militarized police were weaponized against, you know, 19 and 20-year-olds. And the narrative on MSNBC was, oh, these are stupid college kids, they don't know what they're talking about, they don't have any life experience. Oh, and by the way, they had 2 years of COVID, so they don't know how to socialize, so they're acting out. Like, that was literally MSNBC, the Stephanie Rule show after the UCLA violence. So then, last January, we had the fires in LA, and it was the same narrative. Like, the mutual aid groups, the people who were doing the real work, were not covered at all. You know, everybody was focused on Sean Penn and the Red Cross, who were like days late. And we literally had a screening in February of last year at Midnight Books, which is one of the mutual aid groups. And so we were watching Reimagining Safety, and that was the moment that, a year ago, that I had the idea for this, and called Donna, and actually it was a year ago, April, that we did our interviews, and Daruba, and so here we are, you know, but to answer your question, you know, it's the truth and the humanity and the, you know, human connection is what's most important for me.
Propaganda, I like that a lot. My name is Maad Hamza. Some may know me as Mo Hamza or Mohams on social media, which I don't exist in some places anymore. But yeah, I mean, this film, honestly, Matthew does a beautiful, masterful, way of depicting everything that's happening right now. So, I am Palestini through and through, Debbie Palestini. My mom is from Dubas. My dad is from Ain Karim, which is outside of Quds, outside of Jerusalem. And honestly, I've lived through this my whole life. I've known it my whole life. I've learned it from my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. And I just live and breathe it. To the point where I actually visited Palestine for the first time in my life as an adult, literally a month before October 7th, 2023. And I was able to take my son at the time. And it was just one of the most incredible out-of-body experiences where, when I said in the film, when I say I felt every range of emotion, it's not an exaggeration. Like, I felt everything at once, and it was very tough to handle, to be quite honest. So when I'm staring at my grandparents' home, and I know that the settlers lived there, it's the same architecture that is in the photos that I've seen. That alone just like kind of just, that changed me. When I came back, I've been using that as my drive for every single thing that I do. Every single time I go on video. I am known as the yeller, the really angry Arab, but and I like to, I joke about it at times, but I'm at a point now where it's like, who isn't angry, right? So I'm literally here in this seat right now only because I used social media as a way to really express my anger. I truly couldn't handle it anymore. I've lived through it, as I said, as a child, and no disrespect to my elders, but they've been fighting the good fight in a polite way, and I was done with that. I couldn't handle it. I wanted to just put it all out on the table, even with all the, prejudices and, the angry Arab type talk. I wanted to take that risk and just put it all out there, and honestly, it was more cathartic for myself because I needed to do it. And then when I started to see it resonate globally, people that are non-Arab, non-Palestinian, non-Muslim, coming to me and be like, every single thing I've wanted to say in my heart, you just said it on video, and it resonated with me like that. I'm a white person, Jewish person, whatever it is. That is the reason why I kept doing what I do. I hate, contrary to popular belief, I hate being on camera, but I genuinely just couldn't take it anymore. And when people say that, you make me want to speak out myself, get my face on camera. As a non-Arab, hearing that from a white person or a Jewish person, it's the most genuinely gratifying thing to ever hear. So what Matthew did in this film is so incredible because I like to describe it in a way where Palestinians creak that door open. So we should all thank Palestinians 1,000 million fold for what we have exposed to the world, because we opened that door just slightly so that you guys see the interconnectedness of everything, which is what this film is all about. We basically said to the world, it is your opportunity now to kick the door wide open. Learn, research yourself, learn about all of the interconnectedness of everything. Top cities, ICE, everything is one common thread, right? And now people are starting to see that, and that's when I say, I see that light at the end of the tunnel. It's true. I genuinely have never seen this in my whole life, where there's a collective movement globally that is so strong that there's no going back now. So that's why I love what you did in that film.
My name is Nuda. My name is Nuda Erakat. I'm a professor at Rutgers. I'm also an activist. I'm a scholar activist, I'd like to say. I haven't told you, Matthew, but this was a wonderful film. I think I've just been a little bit. My voice is in the middle of my throat. It's really emotional. Like when I saw the image of Hussam Shbat, the 23-year-old journalist who was assassinated in a press vest, who stayed in the north of Gaza to report on his people's genocide, who told the world, please protect me. They've labeled me as Hamas, they're out to get me, who smiled until his very last day. When he was assassinated, I really felt like somebody had taken away my cousin, right? And so to see him on the screen was, and I think I said under my breath, that's when he looked over, I said, Habibi. It was like seeing him again. Or when you were mentioning the story of that young child, who can forget the tower being hit and a child is catapulted from one building to the other. We watch it, he miraculously survives. But the other child behind him doesn't, right? Or to have, this morning to know that there is a rat infestation across Gaza because they created the conditions that would make it impossible to sustain life. One of the specific acts enumerated in the Genocide Convention that's ongoing even after they told us that there was a ceasefire. So I'm still, I'm taking it in. I also started off this morning reading a report, and I want to put open, keep your eyes open for it, by the Palestinian Feminist Collective, who have basically put together something like a 200-page report on sexualized and gendered violence against Palestinians from 1948 to the present. For all of the repeated lines of the mass rapes, they have documented the 78 years of gendered and sexualized violence against men, women, children that has been baked in to Zionist occupation. And so, you know, I'm still kind of walking, one of the things that happened in the course of the genocide, I've been doing this work for now, you know, I was in Palestine during the second Intifada in the early 2000s. I was at Hebrew U because Berkeley wouldn't let me study at a Palestinian university. And I was at Hebrew U and used all the Hebrew that I was learning to explain to the class, you know, I was the only Palestinian, how they all stole my, you know, land and were living in stolen homes, and used my best Hebrew to let them know. That was before boycott was pronounced in that way, and in fact, come back to university because I get kicked out of the university. It's a long story. The first person killed during the Intifada when at Al-Aqsa, when Sharon entered the Al-Aqsa compound, was my neighbor. Fast forward, I'm back at university, I'm at Berkeley. We launch divestment from apartheid Israel on February 6, 2001. All right? 4 years before it's a BDS call. And so I've been doing this work when no one, right? When, as you were saying, like when we didn't see, right? We didn't see people come out.
The OG.
I'm not that, no, it's, in fact, thank you, very old, yes. To your point about our elders, I just want to give it up to our elders who, yes, some of them in the United States, like many Americans, are socialized to be polite, but many of them were also the ones that like led us in liberation warfare. And we're the ones who paid that tax, so it's like, we've paid that price. Anyways, I say all that to say that I continue a Palestinian tradition, which is sumud and a refusal to surrender. If Palestinians teach us anything, it's a refusal to surrender. Even when you have the opportunity to opt out, when they offer you your golden handcuffs, is to never say no. And so when October 7th happened, and I had been in Gaza twice, once with a legal fact-finding mission right after the first large-scale assault in 2009, I, like you, was devastated because I knew exactly what was coming. And so it was taking the same work that we had been doing and now just doing it on bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger stages and with greater and greater and greater punishment, precisely because we were winning. Precisely because now nobody was lying about it. They told us it was the Nakba, and they told us the methods and means by which they were going to accomplish it. And so watching this movie today, for me, felt like I was watching not necessarily a story about Palestine. I actually felt like I was watching a story about those of us who are, socialized in the United States as settlers and anti-Black, who are offered to, a promise into whiteness to be, we are offered in the United States golden handcuffs every day if we agree to a settler narrative and we agree to an anti-Black narrative. And what I saw here was a story of those of us in the United States who are fighting empire from within, and Palestine has led that way. And that's a very unique story being told from here, and so thank you for that.
I'm just going to ask one question and then we'll throw it open to the audience. Mo, I want to follow up a little bit on what you said. Somehow, what's going on in Palestine now has become a vehicle for solidarity, and it has become a vehicle to expose the interconnections of power systems around the world. It's become a vehicle for a deeper understanding of settler colonialism and how imperialism works in the world. And as a result of that, I have seen more solidarity in the city of Philadelphia between Palestinians and other people than I have ever seen in my 45 years living here and being involved in politics. So in that way, it's really an amazing thing going on. So we are in the moment of increasing fascism in this country and in other places. The only way that we're going to be able to win is through solidarity. And what this is showing us is solidarity. So I'd like any of the four of you or all the four of you to explicate a little about solidarity in this moment, what solidarity means in this moment, how we achieve that solidarity in this moment, and the role of Palestine in making that happen?
Matthew tells a story of traveling with Reimagining Safety and showing it to over 130 organizations, 100 screenings, and experiencing that solidarity. I hope I'm not taking your answer from you.
I'll think of something else.
Okay. By the way, we've known each other since 7th grade, so a lot of our conversations end up just like that. So when we were creating this film and we were trying to kind of understand who the audience would be, we knew that it wouldn't be just one audience, and it's kind of hard to explain that to someone who wants to know what your film is about. Because, of course, it tells the story of the Palestinian experience, but by bringing the other groups together, it also brings the other liberation movements into the same space. So the movie itself is an act of creating community and creating solidarity. And that was our intention, and our intention was if one of the adjacent groups might not know the history or the story of the other group, this is an opportunity for them to feel the sameness and the community, or we are all one experience. So now that we're on the road and we're showing it to people and we're meeting people, I mean, this is, I have a kid at home and I have a partner at home, and I feel totally okay leaving them there, because this feeling of solidarity and community that I get to experience with my best friend from 7th grade, and all of us coming together and fighting this one cause, or just learning about it together, is more gratifying and gives me hope in humanity and for my own child and everybody's children. There is actually hope in this hopelessness that we're feeling right now.
Thank you so much.
So I'm in a PhD program for transformative social change, and I'm working on my dissertation, which is on overcoming barriers to solidarity and liberation movements. Well, because I cited you. I literally just cited Dr. Ericat and Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, who wrote an introduction to a journal and talking about how important it is that we spend time together, not just in our places, but when we go to conferences, we're there for like 3 days, and then we go home. Instead of spending time there with the folks there and really like getting, being in community for real, and then bringing that experience and sharing it. So it really is. So spending time together for real, and it can be virtually also, and that's one of the things that's been frustrating for me, which has led to this dissertation, is going to all these cities who are doing really important work, and they're working on solidarity, and yet there's all these divisions, for political reasons, or we don't organize with them because of that thing, and they don't organize with us. And then after October 7th, there was, I didn't mention before, I'm also an anti-Zionist Jew, and I hadn't been practicing for, since I was in my early 20s, and traveling with Reimagining Safety, I started to reconnect with all these Jewish social justice organizations that I hadn't been, connected to in like 20 years. And then October 7th happened, and most of those organizations either didn't speak up or stood in solidarity with Israel, or literally were like, oh, we don't do like international stuff. Yeah. We're not and that was pardon me, it was a big what the fuck? Like, did we not learn anything? Like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. So, it's always looking at where are like my personal barriers, where are our group barriers, and how do we intentionally make it a point to connect, like out of a commitment, like a real commitment to one another.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm of the mentality where solidarity is legitimately like I think all we have at this point now. Because we live in this world now where it's been exposed that we kind of live in this like lack of law. Like essentially the rule of law doesn't exist to certain people that are now in this interconnected billionaire class, state class. Like literally people getting arrested for, smoking weed, but we got pedophiles that are president right now. So untouched, basically. So we need to make sure like we currently now, because of the interconnectedness, and why I love this movie so much is because you have people of all walks of life interviewed in this film. Every single walk of life, from the elder activist to the young, to the social media, to the Jewish, to Muslim, to Arab, to like literally every walk of life, to the black and the anti-black movement. Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah. The White House is the anti-black movement. Exactly. So the thing is, like, I came out of this whole interconnectedness mentality actually trying to actively do this. And so I'm a part of a coalition currently with, I'm representing the Palestinian movement. We've got the Black Panther Party, we've got the Panther Party, we've got the Chicano Brown Berets, we even have the American Indian movement and the Rednecks of America and Patriots. Like we are all in this one coalition together, literally understanding that we all have a very common purpose here now, which is something I could have never said back in the day. So for me to be able to sit in a coalition meeting, speaking to these people, and all of us have a very similar mindset, it's a beautiful thing. So this is like a whole new world for us now that we have to attack head on. We cannot let go of this anymore. This is the moment for us to have complete solidarity from every single movement that is existing today.
So I want to say 3 things, and I'm going to try to make it fast because I'm not good on being brief. But the first is we know what solidarity is not. And I think that the return, kind of this analytical return to Black Palestine solidarity at the height of Black uprising, right, that we see from 2012 to 2020, peak in the Ferguson Gaza moment in 2014, and then again after the extrajudicial assassination of George Floyd in 2020, solidarity is not transactional. It is not, I'm going to show up for you, you're going to show up for me. It is not, because that understands that somehow, for example, that my freedom as a Palestinian is disconnected from my freedom as a woman, right? But my identities are sutured in that way as well. And so too is our united, as you put it, Maad, that our united struggle as one. There is a particular class that is extracting from us and using race, class, and gender to divide us, to believe that somehow we're superior to somebody else. So that's one. The second thing that I'll say is in that moment of a resurgence of Black, and I say analytical return because the height of Black Palestinian solidarity was actually more about Black internationalism during the 1960s through the Third World Revolt, where here you have the Black radical tradition in the United States aligned with Cubans and the Chinese and Algerians and Mozambicans and South Africans, as well as Algerians and Palestinians, right? In 2014, it's called Black Palestinian Solidarity because Palestine is left out of this liberation moment, right? It never gets decolonized. But the thing that we learned there is that it's really about anti-imperialism and understanding that racism and colonialism are sutured as a single thing, so that Palestine is illuminating the colonial nature of Black liberation struggle, and Black liberation struggle is illuminating the racist nature of Palestinian domination. So that's two. The last thing that I'll say is that we are at a very, very difficult moment. We are basically in a moment of collapse. Things are being destroyed on purpose, where this particular president is eager to destroy a lot of things for the U.S. because he's not representing the U.S. as much as he's representing a corporate class, where some individuals in this country, their income is greater than the GDP of the entire Caribbean region, right? And so you've got the rise of individualized sovereignty that's overtaking national sovereignty. We're in a really difficult moment where we can't even identify what is the goal and what is the enemy, which is why we don't even have, in this moment, a resistance party. The Democrats are part of the problem. They continue to be part of the problem. I mean, with respect to Brother Chris Rabb, and we have an opportunity here, and there are insurgent Democrats, but this is a moment where it's really difficult because so many people want to identify that they're in solidarity against Trump, when the rest of us are out here and saying, yo, we're actually in solidarity out here against genocide and imperialism and racism. And you cannot put that genie back in the bottle, and we will not accept going back to a status quo that was totally okay with the mass industrial slaughter of Palestinian babies, right? That's not what we can go back to. And so how do we identify that when this is creating tension between us? This is creating a lot of tension between us, because when I say that, somebody else might say, yeah, but then you're in support of Trump, and you don't support the flourishing of Black life, because you're not standing with us in opposition to this particular regime, as evidenced last night by the gutting of the Voting Rights Act. So solidarity for me in this moment means that we really have to dig in to understand that we are in a generational movement, that this work is generational, that we are planting the seeds and building the new models in the midst of destruction that will survive destruction and build the world we want, rather than settle than just okay because a few of us may survive better than others. So I encourage us to really
Thank you. We are in a moment of real collapse, and the only thing I'll add to that is it is a moment of ecocide as well. We are destroying the earth as well as we are destroying all those other pieces. And in this moment of destruction, we do have to build the seeds for the future, because we will probably live lives through destruction. And we are building the seeds for what happens later. And the only way for us to do that is through acts of solidarity. So we have probably about 15 minutes or so for some questions from the audience. So I would ask people to stand and say your name and really make it a question. Okay? So whoever would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and I'll call on you.
I know everybody wants the biggest question. Where did I get this amazing sweater? Shout out to my brother Nasser Meshni, who comes from occupied Maoriland in Australia, who sent this to me from the river to the sea. This is how much we scare them, where we say these basic words, and this becomes a threat. So thank you, Nasser.
My name is Betsy Piat. I'm retired from the Board of Playgrounds for Palestine, and was part of organizing the Palestine Rights Festival. My question for the panel is, how do we get people to see why it is so important to support the resistance struggles against the system?
Why or how? Sorry.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how I could speak after you spoke.
I'll take a shot. But it's people. Youssef, who's in the film, talks a lot about the importance of people being angry enough, right? So I'll start here and then back up. So with ICE, with that happening, people who have not been, pro-defunding the police, have not, have not supported Palestine, are seeing ICE abductions and are horrified and are angry. So then we get to say, yes, that is connected to this, and this is connected to that. And so those are a lot of the conversations I've been having, and when people have come to see the film, like friends of mine who, didn't really know what's going on, and they're seeing the connections, they're like, oh, I want to learn more about that. So for me, it's, in Daruba's interview, which isn't in this part isn't in the film, like I asked him about that, and I asked him about revolution, and literally he said, Americans are too dumb, to come together, and on the one hand, I see that as, an assessment that makes sense. On the other hand, I also see it as a call to action, which is what drives me and us, with the work that we do, is to have accessible, practical education that connects the dots. So that's my take on it.
Is this about armed resistance?
Yeah.
Is that what the question is? Or just resistance in general?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Every time I ask, you say both. I can respond in both. So you have to be specific with me.
Respond to your choice.
Let me answer the question about armed resistance, because a lot of people are afraid to answer that question, right?
Back you up.
I'm sure you here's the thing, and Sister Asada said it to us, and we saw it on screen. We do not have a single example in history where we were able to persuade our oppressors through moral persuasion. Today you have an Israeli society that literally jokes, and they do, this is just over and over. It's a society that basically celebrates rapists, right? This is a sick society. I find it really strange that people introduce themselves as Israeli and aren't embarrassed, because there's this deep, deep sickness where you're going to be ostracized if you don't participate in this massive, hate is too little of a word, right? In this massive form of supremacist racial violence, where the Israeli Bureau of Statistics indicates that the most conservative, violent, religious, extremist age group in Israel today is aged 18 to 25, which is unique because in most other societies, the youth are more radical than their elders. In Israel, it means that the future is going to be more dismal than the present, right? And so begin with that. And now think to yourself of Palestinians who are abducted in the middle of the night, who are attacked, sexually assaulted, where a man in his village was attacked by settlers and they zip-tied his penis and paraded him around his village, right? Think about the Palestinians who are shot and killed for standing in the wrong place. Think about Isa Amra, where Palestinians are in front of his house, knocking on the door, begging him to come out. They can kill him with impunity while the soldier is watching. Resistance is self-defense. Period. Resistance is self-defense. Any other understanding of it is basically saying that Palestinians should die, right? And then more than that, they should die quietly. Sometimes as we live through this, I often thought, and Samira Asmir writes about this, that, there's this phenomenon where you think as a Palestinian, shit, the only thing I can do is kill myself to make everybody feel comfortable, right? Because that dehumanization is so thorough. On what planet did you not think that we have the right to self-defense? How is it that we cannot protect ourselves, our children, our lands, our mamas, our babas, our uncles, our homes? What went through your mind that made it okay for us not to have any kind of defensive force? And so that's what we have to ask people, right? What else do you expect Palestinians to do? And the truth is that Palestinians fight back right now in the West Bank to protect, or Palestine in general. Israelis will carpet bomb, will burn down the entire village with people alive in it. That's where we're at today. So you want to talk about the horrors of violence, and this is Frantz Fanon. The colonizer is only concerned with nonviolence when the oppressed don't use it. That is it. So I would say, if somebody wants to ask you about resistance, ask them if you believe everybody has the right to self-defense.
Ditto to all that. I just wanted to piggyback on that because I love this question because, like, one, when we say resistance is justified when people are occupied, we mean it, right? So, and I hate to do this because I think a lot of the videos I've made in the past have been hypotheticals, like put yourself in our shoes type situations. And when I ask someone directly, if you're an American or you live like whatever town you're living in, and someone, you know, comes to your home, invades your home, kills your children, has killed like a bunch of your neighbors, has systematically basically killed the majority of your family as well, has taken your home, and literally kicked you out, would you in any capacity try to fight back at all? I'm pretty sure it's an easy answer, right? But the people that do fight back get classified as terrorists, right? Automatically, what if we're Palestinian? So that is the disgusting thing that I have to like continuously have to, I get sick to my stomach creating hypotheticals for people like this because it dehumanizes us in a way, further dehumanizes us. And I'm trying to bring this to light because it's sickening to even have to fight it. Resistance is justified, no matter what. So that's the important thing that we just have to like make it very clear is like if this happened to you and your family, like what would you do?
Can I just add one thing? Because this is something also that's not unique to us. Obviously, I'm bringing up Frantz Fanon, but we saw Nelson Mandela, who was, you know, on the U.S. designated terrorist list until 2008, even though he was released from prison in 1994, right? So, like, we have, this is a global condition. And the one thing that I will add is for us also not to veer into fetishizing resistance, so that any picking up of arms, we actually want this to be organized, disciplined, and to understand from those who have led us in armed liberation movements, that violence is subservient to a politics. And so the other thing that we also need to understand, yes, on the most basic human level, obviously this is just self-defense, but on another level, there's a politics that guides us. And so what is that politics and articulating to people what that vision is also for the world? And that maybe, that you can communicate, right?
One last thing, because like I want to make sure that you guys are able to properly answer this, like because I want others to be able to say it other than us as Palestinians. So the reality is like, in what world? Because Hamas, it consists of many orphans, right? Who are you to condemn that group of orphans that are fighting back for what you did to them? And the people that have orphaned them are the ones that have a right to self-defense. What are you talking about? The concept is safe.
So I want to differentiate between the right to self-defense and creating mass movements. So historically, I beg to differ. There have been many nonviolent direct action self-movements, especially in colonial countries, that have achieved liberation. That is different than self-defense. If you're being physically attacked, you have to defend yourself. But in a place like, let's say, the United States, a mass movement based on nonviolent direct action has a much, much higher chance of success historically than a violent movement in this country would have. So strategically and ethically, for me, creating mass nonviolent movements of revolutionary change in this country are necessary, but that is different than a situation of self-defense.
I'm going to respond to that first by saying that was the second point of, the subservience to a politics and not to fetishize violence. Because I think that when we move to violence, sometimes it could be a politics of defeat because we think that all else is lost and this is going to be the only thing that I can do. There's no disagreement there. And on the point of efficacy, Arundhati Roy, also tells us that for nonviolence to be effective, you have to have an audience. And the most significant nonviolent mass movements of recent years have actually been led by Palestinians. The Gaza March of Return in 2018 was 30 to 40,000 Palestinians marching to a demilitarized perimeter every single week at the surety of being shot and killed by snipers, right? The BDS movement is a non-violent movement. The villages of staying in their villages and actually, resisting the encroachment of settlements and the spreading of the wall, right? The expansion of the wall is a non-violent movement. The flotilla, the solidarity flotillas, are non-violent movements. The most non-violent movements we have are being led by Palestinians.
Yes.
They do not have an audience. That is not to say they should not continue. In fact, Palestinians, when they stay on their land, despite this lack of a future, are still practicing nonviolence, right? And so, but the question was, how do you get an audience not to be obsessed with the use of force and that eclipses the conditions of oppression? And there, the language of self-defense is absolutely necessary. All of it goes back to, unfortunately, the rootedness of understanding Palestinians are human. That's it. And that's what's so difficult. I had this conversation the other day. Mehdi Hassan has, how do you respond? Does Israel have a right to exist, right? And he gives you some pointers on how to do it. And in my mind, the way that I would answer that question, right, it's almost like asking an enslaved person, right, do you believe in the right to private property? You see what's happening there? It's the taking for granted the condition of oppression. You had, that human was never to be property. This land was never to be stolen. And so these are the things that we're working through. But yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing very directly. So no American in a place of privilege has any right, in my opinion, to equate America to Palestine in its sense of what is going on in Palestine systemically for 77, 78 years. And try to say that nonviolence, I'm not advocating for violence, I'm just going to say that directly. But even in the UN charters, they say, if you are an oppressed people, if you are an occupied people, you have a right to resist in any way, shape, or form.
We have I'll just, on the international law, I just want to, sorry, this nerd in me. The additional protocols of 1977 to the Geneva Conventions of 49, which were legislated, primarily led in the aftermath of Vietnam, where there were no laws of war.
Correct.
There were no laws of war. The My Lai massacre wasn't necessarily, was a massacre, but there was no prohibition. The targeting of the Viet Cong, the going after them in tunnels, the laws of war for guerrillas develops because of this, right? And so this additional protocol in 77 is drafted by the group of 77, the Third World, and there they articulate that every people that is under foreign domination, alien occupation, or a racist regime has a right to bear arms. There are, and that use of force is regulated. They have to use it in a particular way, and that has a lot of rules.
Good. One more question from the audience.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Asantwa Nkrumah Toure. I want to thank all of the panelists. First of all, I have to say thank you for including the clip of my big brother, Kwame Toure. For all of you in your work, how are you reaching young people, particularly teenagers, in terms of these ideas about politics and solidarity and so forth? Because for those of you from here in Philadelphia, when we had the Save Chinatown campaign, we had solidarity in spite of the fact that the 76ers tried to pit the Asian community and Chinatown against African people, and it didn't work. But also the strength we had was we involved a lot of young people, including teenagers. So how are you all working with young people?
I'm not that young, though. Make that very clear. So I say this a lot. The youth movement is genuinely the brightest, shiniest light of what's happening now. We wouldn't be where we are today without the youth movement currently. And you can see it honestly by the numbers. If you saw the most recent poll, like the favorability of Israel currently, it's staggering what the numbers are based on what we are typically accustomed to. So you have 80% of Democrats, and that's all ages, by the way, that are viewing Israel unfavorably. That's nuts. And then Republicans, ages, what was it, 30 to 49 or something, are also view Israel unfavorably. This is Republicans, right? So this is a whole new world where you, and I hate to bring this up because there's a lot of people that I would specifically platform myself, but there are, in the MAGA movement, they are also questioning what the hell is going on. Like, this because of the youth movement. They're like, wait, this is making no sense now because they see everything, right? And you have a lot of folks, like even in the podcast world, if you think about it, who have a significant portion of the population, like the Theo Vaughns, the Joe Rogans, the Candace Owens, the Tucker Carlsons, like they're speaking to their base and saying a lot of truths about Palestine. Let's be frank here. But I would genuinely not platform them because I disagree wholeheartedly with a lot of the stuff they said. I would never, right? So the reason I bring it up is because people are now kind of awake to what's going on in this nation, and the youth are asking those questions and doing the research to actually figure this out themselves. And that's kind of why I feel like that's the bright moment for us, is because once these old, sorry, no disrespect to the old, the older, I'm only speaking to the congressmen and women that are just ridiculous right now, that the young folks are going to hopefully be in positions of power where they can make change. So, and based on the polls I've been seeing, hopefully that happens. So.
I think the one thing, no, it's fine. The one thing I just want to add is like, the best way that we can support youth is to let them lead us. Like a lot of times we want to police them, we want to tell them how to do it, Yo, they're the future. Let them lead, right? If they ask us questions, we'll answer, and if they don't, then get in line. And so that's the best way.
I was just going to say, I have a 14-and-a-half-year-old, and in our house, we speak very openly about all of these topics and about politics. And I've seen him kind of really grow in the movement as well. But something very exciting that just happened in this last week was there was an encampment that started up at Occidental College in Los Angeles. And those young people are just as committed today as they were 2 years ago. It was just so beautiful to see. I was so proud. That's in 30 whatever years since I've graduated, that was the most proud I ever have been of the college that I graduated from. And they're still fighting. They're still fighting, and it's amazing. It was shut down, but the kids are still fighting even since it's been shut down.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that because, like, I completely agree with you. Honestly, the system we have in place is like instilled real fear, though, in our youth because of what they've been doing, kicking them out of schools and reprimanding them to an extreme level. And as a result, also as a result of this fake ceasefire that comes up, that is kind of what fizzled out a lot of like the strength in our movement. I have to be real about this because I monitor it on social media, and I notice things do tend to quiet down. That's where I get like the most angry, because we need to keep pushing, because we genuinely have put them on their back foot. And if you stop, if you actually start to back up, they're gonna step off that ledge, right? And then they're gonna go back into that old habits and our patterns that we've been living through our whole lives. So this is our moment to keep pushing. So this is like, when I say their backs are against the wall, they're on the ledge right now. It's our moment now to push them off. That's it.
One other thing. There's in LA, there's a number of art organizations that work with students and continuation high schools or they help teach students how to be activists. And so I've had the honor and pleasure to, both this film and the previous film, all the interviews were filmed with iPhones. And so I've gone into schools, I teach a course, to teach them how to, it's mostly storytelling because they already know the technology part, but showing like you can actually do something with an iPhone and a laptop, and and then here's how you structure a story that will reach people. So that's something, at least as far as the youth on that end of things.
So thank you, everybody. I want to thank the panel again. I want to thank the Falzer Club for their generosity.
Can I just add one little thing? So we're on tour right now, and we really appreciate you guys supporting us and coming out here. We are in New Jersey in a couple of days on Saturday.
The Hub in Orange, New Jersey.
Please follow the movie at seedsforliberationmovie.com or on Instagram, Seeds for Liberation Movie. Our tour schedule is on there. Tell your friends about it. And on May 6th, next Wednesday, we have a virtual event that you could let people know who aren't in this city or other cities that we're on tour. It's online through Kinema. You can find the link on our website and our Instagram. And we're going to have a panel hosted by Alana Hadid and Quentin Quarantino. Sim Kern is also going to be there with Matthew and I as panelists. So I just wanted to put that out there. You guys can share that information with your friends all over the country.
So if you really want to thank the panel, you will go to their website, spread news about the movie. You will engage in radical acts of solidarity in the coming week, and you'll show up tomorrow at City Hall for a May Day rally.